Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for tuning back in. I'm Roger McKinley, and here is your next Regen News mini pod. Today, I want to talk about something you've probably never been asked about on the farm. And I would even go as far as to bet that you haven't had this conversation with someone who is your seed sales representative. What's actually inside your seed? Now, I'm not talking about the variety, I'm talking about the nutrition inside the seed piece itself, the physical biology that makes up the seed, the integrity of what you are buying, because when you buy commercial seed, you're not just buying genetics, you're buying someone else's agronomic program. Did you catch that? I'll say it again because it's so crucial, right? When you buy seed that you put in the ground, you're buying the seed grower's agronomic program and practices on their farm. And more often than not, it's a system that's heavy on NPK and light on secondary and micronutrients that are vital to healthy plants and bin busting yields. Okay, so let's get into this a bit deeper. How about we start with the basics with a quick primer on seeds? A plant seed contains an embryo, a food reserve, and a protective seed coat. The embryo is a miniature plant in a dormant state that will begin to grow when conditions are favorable. The food reserve, often starches, carbohydrates, and nutrients, provide nourishment to the developing embryo until it can start making its own food. The seed coat protects the embryo from damage and dehydration. The embryo is the developing new plant. It's essentially a young plant in a dormant state, containing the blueprint for the future plant. The embryo includes the radicle, the embryonic root, hypocotyle, the embryonic stem, and cotyledons, the seed leaves. The food reserve, either endosperm or cotyledons as part of the seed, provides nutrients for the embryo to grow and develop until it can start making its own food through photosynthesis. In some seeds, the cotyledons themselves store the nutrients, while in others, the endosperm is the main source of food. The seed coat is the protective outer layer of the seed. It protects the embryo from damage from insects, disease, and drying out. It also helps to prevent water from entering the seed before it's ready to germinate. The real problem when we get into discussing commercial seed is what we are calling nutritional seed density. Now, if you haven't heard this term yet in the industry, get ready because it is going to start coming out of everyone's mouth. Over the past few decades, it's well documented that the nutritional density of our fruit and vegetables has decreased dramatically. Plenty of names in the podcast world have talked about this specific topic, and we don't need to go there. But doesn't it stand to reason that if nutritional quality of produce is declining, then wouldn't seed nutrition also be in jeopardy when grown in the same soils with the same farming practices? As a farmer, this is a major threat to your bottom line, and it's easily avoidable, as you will hear in just a bit. It should also make you wonder if some of those head scratching outcomes could be as simple as poor seed quality resulting in a poor start to the season. With row crops, it's a sprint, not a marathon, and if you stumble out of the blocks, your fate is likely doomed. If the seed was grown in a conventional system with high nitrogen and a little biological focus, which almost every commercial seed grower is doing, it's going to be low in critical nutrients. Again, we have reference articles in the white papers available if you want to do a lit review, or you can listen as we break down the critical aspects of high quality seeds. So, from a nutritional standpoint, which elements are the stars of the show? Phosphorus, zinc, manganese, and boron are the top four, playing a pivotal role in seed germination, seedling vigor, uniformity, disease resistance, and root development. Let's start with the foundation of energy and early rooting. One, phosphorus, the energy driver. Phosphorus is the fuel source behind every early process in plant development. It's central to ATP production, powering germination, enzyme activation, and root expansion. Research shows that up to 75% of a plant's total phosphorus demand occurs in the early growth stages. If the seed or root zone lacks phosphorus during that window, there's no making it up later. The opportunity is gone. Seeds with strong phosphorus reserves show faster germination, greater biomass, more uniform emergence, and a stronger root system right out of the gate. Yet phosphorus is immobile in cool or compacted soils, and many fields lose early access. That's why starter fertilizers or seed priming with bioavailable phosphorus forms are so valuable. Two, next up is manganese, often called the seed energizer because of how many enzymes it activates during germination. This one element largely dictates the speed at which a seed germinates and starts to grow. Manganese sulfate is the most effective form for seed treatment, but here's where precision matters. Too much manganese can block uptake of other nutrients. Overloading can suppress zinc, iron, and other micronutrients. 3. Zinc, the hormonal engine. Zinc is the auxin builder, a trace mineral that directly fuels hormonal development, especially root and shoot formation. Zinc activates hundreds of enzymes and stabilizes cellular membranes. But most importantly, it's required to make auxins, the hormones that determine how aggressively a root pushes down and a shoot grows up. Zinc deficiencies are widespread in over 56% of farmland, but correcting it early at the seed can flip the script on establishment and final yield. 4. Boron, the silent architect. Finally, boron, the most underappreciated player in seed success. Boron governs cell wall development, sugar transport, and early root meristem activity. It keeps early cell division orderly, root structured, and carbohydrate flow directed to growing points. When boron is present, you see it in stand uniformity, better emergence, and clean, structured early growth. If you miss it, then you get uneven root tips, distorted shoots, and lagging seedlings. So let's wrap it all up with this. Phosphorus fuels the system, providing energy and root expansion in the most critical window. Manganese activates key enzymes and photosynthesis, but needs careful dosing to avoid blocking other nutrients. Zinc builds the root engine, triggering auxin production and membrane stability for stronger shoots and faster growth. Boron keeps growth organized, ensuring sugar flow, cell wall strength, and uniform emergence. If you're not thinking about these four nutrients at the seed level, you're playing catch up from day one. When these elements are missing, you feel it. You can see it on the farm. There is uneven emergence across the field, poor stands, lower vigor, and a sluggish start to your season. Not what you are after. Now that we touched on the nutritional elements, let's pivot for a minute and talk about the seed microbiome. Now, here's the kicker: seeds also carry microbes, the kind of microbes we actually want. These beneficial microbes are meant to be antagonistic to soil pathogens, kickstart your crop's immune system, and support rooting and early plant growth. But what happens when seeds are coated in synthetic fungicides and insecticides? You wipe out pathogens and pests around the seed piece, but you also destroy biological allies before they ever get a chance to start working with the plant. In our opinion, this is the downfall of conventional agriculture. We have become obsessed with trying to delete every problem without even knowing if it's going to occur. Sure, pests and pathogens can be expensive and embarrassing if we experience poor yields or even a crop failure, but the conventional alternative is only profitable for chemical companies, and it's also reducing the quality of our soils, plants, food, and the environment. That's not sustainable either. We need solutions and priming seeds with quality inputs that are compatible with soils, plants, and the environment is a phenomenal way to start. All right, so let's land the plane. What can we do to make seeds great again? Step 1, seed tests. Nutritional density, germination percentage, seed vigor should all be assessed prior to planting. In some cases, it's also vital to be certain that seeds do not contain pathogens that will be transported into your field and production. We test for just about everything else in agriculture. We test soils, plants, water, disease, and the list goes on. But what farmers haven't focused on yet is where the season starts, and that's with the seed. We now have third-party labs that can measure seed quality. One of our partners, ATP Nutrition, is finding that over 90% of seed lots tested are deficient in at least one critical area. Now, this is massively concerning because this is lost potential. It's also a massive opportunity to prime seeds with biology, nutrition, and biostimulants. And it's the most cost-effective intervention in the crop production cycle. In many cases, you can create a dynamite seed treatment that checks all the boxes for less than $10 per acre. That's far less expensive than almost any other input intervention during the growing season. So, what are we doing at Regen Ag to prime seeds, and what results can you expect? Here's the cool part. Many of the seed treatment applications are backed with hundreds of studies and a consistent response. For example, the nutritional seed treatment line we use summarized 90 replicated field trials across 6 crops and showed an average yield increase for 2 bushels per acre for cereals and oil seeds, wheat, barley, and canola, and up to 4 bushels per acre for nitrogen-fixing crops, peas and soybeans. This was delivered at a retail cost of only $2 per acre. Now that we have some data, it's easier to make decisions. But how about a recipe? Well, I'm glad you asked. We won't mention specific products because at this point we aren't being paid to do so, but here's a general list of items that may be essential. Think of priming as building a balanced blend, customized to your crop, your field, and your goals. It's not about throwing everything at the seed, it's about selecting the right tools from a few key categories. 1. Add key nutrients. Start with the minerals that are either commonly deficient or known to deliver a strong return on investment at the seed stage. 2. Add inoculants. Consider adding biologicals that bring either protection or symbiosis. This may include compost extract, mycorrhizal fungi, endophytes, or biofungicides like select trichoderma strains and specific bacillus species. These are the living tools that help the seed engage with its soil environment more effectively, whether by defending against pathogens or expanding its root access. 3. Add microbial food sources. To keep those biologicals active and thriving, include simple carbon sources like sugars or molasses, microalgae, or low-dose humics and fulvics. These additives not only feed the microbes, they can also help with adhesion of the mix to the seed coat, improving delivery and coverage. 4. Add biostimulants. Biostimulants help trigger natural plant processes that improve stress tolerance, rooting, and early growth. Some common examples include chitosan amino acids, kelp, and quillaja extract. Again, you won't use all of these at once. The key is testing and context. We have to know your soil, your crop, and your local pest and fungal pressures. This is where the real opportunity lies, and that is agronomic customization. Our team works closely with yours to build seed priming blends that are data-driven, biologically compatible, and optimized for your operation. Because when you get the priming strategy right, you don't just get better germination. You get a stronger, more resilient crop from day one. Ultimately, priming seeds with quality inputs is a great solution for some crops and situations, but the real answer lies in the production of the seed itself. At Regen Ag Nation, we're not just talking theory. Over the last few years, we have been working directly with seed growers to produce higher quality seed. Ultimately, that comes down to focusing on mineral nutrition and producing healthy plants that work with soil microbiology to pack seeds with all the right elements to make the next grower down the line more successful. That leads us into seed vigor, and really, this is the holy grail all farmers are after. The first few weeks of growth are the most critical to the start of your season. Farmers already know this. Once those cotyledons emerge, the roots take over. But if the seed's running on empty from the start, good luck recovering later in the season. That's why seed vigor matters. It's not just about popping up fast, it's about showing up with enough strength to handle stress, outpace weeds, and build a real foundation. So, what can you do? Here's what we tell our growers. 1. Ask your seed supplier, how is this seed grown? Now, don't expect to get their whole agronomic plan, as most of this is coveted information, but look for specifics around synthetic fertilizer and protection-based products. These are indicators of whether they are paying attention to the biology above and below the soil. 2. Test your seed lots. You need to know what's missing. If you don't know what is there to start with, then you don't know what to put on the seed. The more precise we can dial in the nutrition, the better shape we will be in starting the season. 3. Use prescriptive treatments based on the data. Data is the key moving forward to making something that is good even better. As all of us 80s and 90s kids would remember the saying, knowing is half the battle. 4. And most of all, work with seed producers who care about biology, not just bulk. If you want a reference on who we are working with, give us a call. Because at the end of the day, the seed is the first input you put into the soil. And if we can get that piece right, we change everything. If you want to read more on seed density nutrition or start testing your own seed lots, head over to our website or drop us a message. That's it for today. Regen Ag Nation signing off.